Our meaningful learning project is about helping students understand sex orientation. Our generic topic is how would you help create a physically safe and emotionally supportive environment for the LGBTQ+ members within the school community. Our targeted learner is from high school 9th grade to 12th grade. This generic topic covers two main subjects, sex education and English. Here, we will focus on sex orientation and English writing. It provides multiple entry points such as interpersonal, linguistic, and aesthetic for students to start the learning process. This is an interesting topic for both students and teachers. For students, it allows them to explore and understand their own identities, and the multimedia performances allow both students and teachers to explore creativity and diversities of expressions. This topic will generate inquiry for students to think now and in the future. For example, students might wonder what the sex orientation means, and generate further thoughts to consider why it is important for everyone in our society to understand this and show respect to diversities. Then it comes to our main understanding goal, that students will learn effective ways to promote equity for LGBTQ+ members within the school community, in formats of both creative and formal writings to target the audience in a coherent, concise, and intelligible manner. This understanding goal helps students develop empathy towards LGBTQ+ communities and also helps students to practice writing considering audiences, tone, and purposes. This goal will help students to understand effective ways to promote equity in the society and educating the next generation to eventually create an equitable society.
This performance will help students develop understanding and empathy toward the LGBTQ+ community. The performance includes the following stages. First, students will begin with an introductory activity to bring up their interest to the topic. Next, students will participate in a guided inquiry. They are encouraged to go beyond the information given and apply new knowledge into real-life conversations. Finally, students will engage in a cumulative performance, which is built on all of the knowledge and values they developed through their earlier activities. This flowchart helps illustrate the process of students when they are engaging in the children's book creation activity. First, students will reflect on their personal experience, think of the meaning of the LGBTQ+ community. Then, students will form ideas, think of target audience, tone, and develop key writing elements. Students will also learn to use appropriate visual aids to complement the story as a whole. Next, discuss the draft work with peers and instructors and make revisions based on their feedbacks. At the end of the activity, students will be expected with a complete work and be able to discuss the work with their peers. The performance relates to our understanding goal because it helps students make conversations more comfortable and respectful. Through creative writing, students will also practice on key elements of writing as well as their storytelling skills. Learning happens through discussion, collaborations, and hands-on activity. The performance will stretch students' minds as it allows creativity, and students should absolutely in charge of their own projects in the developing process. Digital technology are also engaged to enhance performance, and we'll discuss them further later.
Our second activity is deeply connected with the English objective in our project, which is for students to learn how to write a formal letter to address their concerns. In the planning stage, they will watch videos on how to write a formal letter, read several examples that the teacher provided. Then, onto the research part, they need to research about sexual orientation in sex ed policies. In the outline aspect, after peering review with the outline with two other peers, get some feedbacks. During the draft and final letter, there are also some leading questions for them to get into a group of 4 to 5 peers, come up with the rubric of them own using the rubric template provided. And then they will do the peer review of the draft, complete their draft, and get peer reviews based on the rubric that the students came up with. Then onto the final letter, peer reviewing with 2 other peers using both rubric generated by the students and the rubric that the teacher provided. On to our next slide. The connection to understanding goals are pretty straightforward. It is separated to 4 parts: planning, outline, draft, and final. Then the stretching minds part, which is going beyond what is told, done, memorized, and repeated. Our next phase is sequence to build up competency. The 4-step performance activities help students build up their skills and understanding towards the understanding goals. During the planning stage, they will not be able to understand policies, procedures, and ways to write letter to advocate for LGBTQ+ community without performing thoughtful research. Second, the outline worksheet and peer review will help them generate ideas on ways to organize their letter and ways to make improvements. Third, the student rubrics can promote inner thoughts on what students think a great letter entails so that they can try to achieve the goals based on their own rubric. Finally, by looking at the grade and the feedback, students will gain more understanding of their goals, strengths, and weaknesses.
Now we're going to look at the assessment for each performances. For Performances 1 Storybook, we're looking for students' use of appropriate story setting and languages, and a static choice of illustration for the story. Keep in mind that all should be appropriate for children. Students should also show understanding of sex orientation in the story and reach the goal to help children understand this topic. The most important criteria of a student to examine their own work's peer review with major elements to consider: character, setting, plot, conflict, point of view, and theme. The standard is for students to think that they are willing to read the book to their future children or younger siblings if they have one. The pros of this criteria is for students to get perspective of potential audiences and understand what they need to be aware of when they create the story. The cons are difficult for the teacher to examine whether students make efforts or not. For Performances 2 letter, we're looking for students to show correct format at 2. The letter should have clear logic with meaningful explanation to address the proposition. Students should show empathy and a clear method on how to build a comfortable environment for LGBTQ+ communities. The major criteria is the peer rubric that generated by Group 5 of 4. The pro is to help students get deeper understanding of what makes a good letter, and the cons could be that it is difficult for teachers to keep track of the standard for the whole class due to various and incomplete student rubric. We integrated technology into our meaningful learning process to support students for them to understand the problem and perform their understanding. These tools are chosen to support students by providing them extra information, tools to explore and express their thoughts, and spaces to learn, work, and grow together with each other. These technology help students to get deeper understanding towards the topic and maximize their creativity when performing their understanding.
All right, on to reflective, collaborative communities. In order to continue to build this community, we'd like to take the second performance on the formal letter and, again, continue to build this reflective, collaborative community by having peer-generated rubrics to instigate continued meaningful reflection of formal letters. Here are a few reflection prompts that we came up with that would help with the process of the peer-generated rubric. What about scaffolding? So here you see the writing rubric for the Common Core High School Student Argumentative Essay. And this would be an example that could serve as a template for the peer-generated rubric.
As we all hope to see an equitable society, understanding what and how life could be for minority group and develop empathy is important for our students to become future citizens that build our world. By using the TFU framework, students will understand the topic by solving the problem that we proposed and use the technology as tools to deepen their understanding and demonstrate what they have learned.